There's a kind of freedom that doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes the moment you finally let go of the need to control. I once met a man who planned his entire life, down to the minute, his career, his savings, even the timing of his happiness. He thought peace would come once everything was under control. But the more he tried to hold on, the more exhausted he became, like someone gripping sand tighter, only to watch it slip through his fingers. Most of us live this way, don't we? Always chasing after tomorrow, trying to predict every risk, prepare for every fall, keep everything safe. We build walls around our hearts, thinking they'll protect us from pain. But all they do is keep us from truly living. And here's the strange thing, most of what we fear never actually happens. Yet we pay for it every day, with our peace, our sleep, our joy. We sacrifice the calm of this moment for a future that hasn't even arrived. It's like standing on a beautiful shore, but never looking at the ocean, because you're too busy worrying about the next wave. But there's a secret that life reveals only when you stop running. When you stop chasing life, life starts to find you. The truth is, peace isn't something you can capture or schedule. It's not waiting for you at the end of your to-do list. It's already here, in the quiet space between your thoughts, in the breath you've been too busy to notice. Imagine what would happen if you stopped fighting the current, even for a moment. If you stopped asking, "What's next?" and simply said, "This is enough." Maybe that's when real freedom begins. Not the freedom of control, but the freedom of surrender. Because letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting that life knows how to carry you, even when you don't know where you're going. And sometimes, that's where the most beautiful parts of your story begin. 1. Fear is a seed. There was once a man named Daniel. He loved his small garden behind the house, rows of tomatoes, basil, and lavender. Every morning, he'd water them with care, pull out the weeds, talk to them softly as if they could hear. But one day, something changed. He found a tiny sprout growing in the corner, one he didn't plant. It looked fragile, almost harmless, so he let it stay. Weeks passed. That small sprout grew faster than anything else. Its roots spread quietly beneath the soil, wrapping around the other plants. Before long, it began stealing their light, their space, their life. And Daniel realized that wild plant wasn't random. It was something he had allowed, something he had ignored until it took over. That's exactly how fear works. The mind is a fertile garden. Every thought we water will grow. Fear, once planted, begins small, just a whisper of, "What if? What if I fail? What if they leave? What if I'm not enough?" You tell yourself it's harmless, just being careful. But fear doesn't stop there. It digs deep. It takes root. And soon, it starts shaping everything you do. Your choices, your relationships, even how you see yourself. Buddha once said, "What we think, we become." Our thoughts are the seeds of our reality. If we constantly feed fear, we end up living in a world built from it. Think about it. How many times have you hesitated because of fear? How many moments of joy did you trade for the illusion of safety? Daniel didn't notice the weed until it had already taken the sunlight away from his flowers. That's what happens in our hearts too. We let fear take root so quietly that one day we look around and the garden of peace we once had is gone. But here's the beauty. Just as you can choose what to plant in a garden, you can choose what to nurture in your mind. Every time you worry, you're watering fear. Every time you breathe deeply and stay present, you're watering peace. The mind will grow whatever you feed it. And peace, like any plant, needs attention, sunlight, and patience. There's a story in the Buddhist sutras that says, a monk asked the Buddha, "Why does fear visit me even when I'm doing nothing wrong?" The Buddha replied, "Because you still invite it in. Close the door gently. not with anger, but with understanding. Asterisk. It's not about fighting fear that only gives it more energy. It's about seeing it clearly, recognizing it for what it is, a seed. You can acknowledge it, smile at it, and simply choose not to water it anymore. Next time fear arises, pause for a moment. Notice where it lives, maybe in your chest, your throat, your thoughts. Whisper to yourself, I see you. That's awareness, and awareness is the sunlight that helps fear fade. Daniel eventually went back to his garden. He dug around the wild plant and gently pulled out its roots. Then, he planted something new, a small lotus. He watered it every morning. And this time, he watched not only his garden grow, but his peace too. Because the real garden was never behind his house. It was within him all along. So ask yourself today, what are you watering? Are you feeding the seed of fear, letting it grow wild and shadow everything around you? Or are you nurturing the seed of peace, trusting that it will bloom, even if it takes time? The truth is, fear will always exist somewhere in the soil of the mind. But it doesn't have to rule the garden. When you choose awareness, you choose light. And when you choose light, fear has nowhere left to grow. Let peace be the seed you care for today. Because one day, when you least expect it, that peace will bloom into something far greater, a freedom no fear can touch. 2. Anxiety belongs to the future. Peace belongs to now. There was a woman named Claire. Every night, she sat by her window, staring at the city lights below. To anyone else, her life looked perfect. A stable job, a comfortable home, people who cared about her. But inside, her mind was a storm. She couldn't stop thinking, what if I lose my job? What if something happens to my parents? What if I'm just not good enough? The questions came like waves, crashing one after another. Even when nothing was wrong, her body acted as if danger was right outside her door. Her chest tightened. Her breath grew shallow. And peace, that simple, quiet peace, felt like a stranger she used to know. One evening, Claire visited a small Buddhist temple near her neighborhood. The monk there didn't speak much English, but he smiled in a way that said everything. He handed her a small piece of paper. On it were 6 simple words. Anxiety belongs to the future. Peace belongs to now. She read it again and again. It sounded too simple to be true. But that night, when her thoughts began to race again, she remembered the monk's smile and the words. She took a deep breath. Then another. For the first time in years, she noticed the sound of her own breathing. It felt strange at first, like listening to something she had always ignored. And in that small space between her inhale and exhale, the storm softened. Anxiety can't survive in the present moment. It only lives in the places your mind wanders, in what hasn't happened yet. You can't feel anxious about the breath you're taking right now, because this moment is whole, complete, untouched by fear. Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." When your attention is scattered between yesterday and tomorrow, peace has no room to enter. But when you return through a single conscious breath, you reclaim your power. Each breath is an anchor. No matter how wild the sea of your thoughts becomes, the breath brings you home. Home to now. Home to peace. One morning, Claire woke up before sunrise. The world was quiet. For the first time in a long while, she didn't reach for her phone. She just sat, feeling the air move in and out of her lungs. A soft realization came that nothing bad was happening right now. Her worries belonged to a future that didn't yet exist. Her peace was right here, in this very breath. She began practicing it every day, breathing slowly when her mind spun stories of what could go wrong. Sometimes she failed. Sometimes the old storm came back. But each time she noticed it, she whispered to herself, "This is the future talking. I'm not there yet." And that simple awareness brought her back. Because awareness, like sunlight, burns through the fog of anxiety. It shows you what's real and what's just imagination. There's a saying in Zen, "When you wash the dishes, just wash the dishes." It sounds ordinary, almost silly, but it's the essence of peace. When you give your full attention to what's in front of you, the mind no longer has space to create fear. You stop fighting time. You start living it. Anxiety feeds on tomorrow. Peace breathes in now. And between the two, there is a doorway. Your breath. Later that year, Claire visited the same temple again. She told the monk, "I still feel fear sometimes." He smiled and said, "Good. That means you're alive. Just remember, fear is a visitor. Don't build it a home." Claire laughed softly. She understood now. Peace wasn't something she had to find. It was something she had to return to again and again. As she left, the monk added, "When you breathe, you are already home." So, if your mind feels heavy today, if you're lost in all the what-ifs that haven't yet come, pause, breathe. Let the future wait. It doesn't need you right now. This moment does. And in this moment, everything you need is already here. 3. Most of the weight you carry isn't real. Imagine this. You're walking through a quiet forest, a heavy backpack pressing against your shoulders. Every step feels harder than the last. Now, picture someone stopping you and saying, "What's inside that bag you're carrying?" You pause. You open it. And to your surprise, it's almost empty. Just a few small stones and a whole lot of air. That's how most of us move through life. We think we're carrying the weight of the world, worries, fears, regrets, but in truth, much of it isn't real. It's made of stories we tell ourselves, fictions that play on repeat inside our minds. We replay what someone said years ago. We fear what might happen tomorrow. We invent entire disasters that never come true. And slowly, those imagined burdens begin to feel as real as the ground beneath our feet. Once, the Buddha was asked, "What causes human beings the most suffering?" He replied gently, "It is the mind that clings." We cling to thoughts like a vine wraps around a tree, slowly tightening, until we can barely breathe. We cling to who we think we should be, to what others might think of us, to the illusion that if we worry enough, somehow we can control the future. But worry is not preparation. Fear is not protection. And guilt is not love. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who spent his whole life trying to avoid pain. Every time something went wrong, he'd think, "If I just plan better next time, it won't hurt." He believed the world was always out to test him. So he stayed alert, anxious, prepared for disaster. One day, he met an old monk by a river. The monk asked, "Why are you frowning, traveler?" The man sighed, "I'm tired. Life keeps giving me stones to carry." The monk smiled. "Then why do you keep picking them up?" The man froze. He looked down at his hands and saw he was holding nothing. The stones were never there. Only the belief that they were. That's the truth most of us miss. The heaviest weight is not what life gives us, it's what we add to it. We take one small problem and wrap it in layers of what if. We replay every mistake until it becomes a mountain of shame. We confuse our thoughts with reality, and our pain becomes endless. But the moment you see the story, you begin to wake up from it. When a thought says, "I'm not enough," ask it softly, "Who's saying that?" When fear whispers, "What if everything goes wrong?" Pause and remind yourself, you've survived every what if so far. Buddhism teaches that our suffering is like carrying a burning coal, waiting for the other person to feel the heat. We clutch it tighter, thinking it gives us control. But the only one who burns is us. So, what happens if you begin to let go? Not all at once, just one small thought at a time. One judgment. One expectation. One story you no longer need to tell yourself. At first, you'll feel lighter, then freer. Then, one day, you'll look back and realize the backpack you once feared to open was never that heavy after all. Sometimes peace doesn't arrive because life becomes easier. It arrives because you stop believing every thought that passes through your mind. You stop building palaces out of fear. You stop chasing shadows and start seeing the light. The Buddha once said, "Drop by drop, the water pot fills. So too, the wise person, gathering it little by little, fills themselves with peace." You don't have to release everything today. Just notice what isn't real. That's enough. Each time you catch yourself overthinking, pause, breathe, touch the ground beneath your feet. Remind yourself this moment is real. The rest is just clouds passing through a vast sky. Maybe the greatest relief isn't in solving every problem, but in realizing half of them were never real to begin with. Like waking from a dream, you open your eyes to the quiet truth. You were never drowning, only imagining the waves. You were never lost, only forgetting that you were already home. And that's the heart of it. Most of the weight you carry isn't real. Set it down and watch how much lighter the world feels when your hands are finally empty. 4. Real strength is in surrender. We're taught from a young age to fight, to push harder, to control every part of our lives, as if peace could be forced into existence. But tell me this, have you ever tried to hold water in your fist? The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. That's how control works. We believe it keeps us safe, yet it often becomes the very thing that drowns us. There was once a woman named Lena. For years, she tried to control everything, her job, her relationships, even the timing of her happiness. She planned every detail, every outcome, every tomorrow. But life didn't follow her schedule. Her partner left. Her company downsized. Her health began to fade. And one night, sitting alone on her kitchen floor, she whispered through tears, "I did everything right. Why does it still hurt?" In that silence, something inside her finally broke, not from weakness, but from exhaustion. The exhaustion of trying to hold on to what was never hers to control. In the days that followed, Lena stopped running. She stopped fixing. She simply sat in stillness. For the first time in years, she allowed life to be what it was. And something strange happened. The world didn't fall apart. It softened. The air felt lighter. Her body breathed easier. Even her sadness began to move like clouds drifting across the sky. That's when she remembered a line she once read from the Buddha. To let go is not to lose. It is to make space for what is true. The world tells us that strength means control. But Buddhism whispers the opposite. Real strength begins where control ends. Because when you surrender, you're not giving up. You're giving in to the rhythm of life itself. A river never fights the current. It flows with it. And in doing so, it shapes mountains. That's the quiet kind of power we often overlook. The power of allowing. But surrender doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what you can and releasing what you can't. It's trusting that the seed you planted will grow, even if you can't see it yet. It's saying, "I've done my part. Now I let the universe do hers." The Buddha once compared clinging to suffering, like holding a torch against the wind. You burn yourself long before it lights your way. So maybe surrender is simply this: putting the torch down, letting the wind guide your light instead of fighting it. I know surrender sounds scary, because the mind asks, if I let go, who will I be? But that question is the doorway. When you stop trying to control everything, you meet the truth of who you've been all along. The one who doesn't need control to be safe, who doesn't need to win to be whole. Strength isn't the warrior shouting at the storm. It's the tree that bends and never breaks. It's the ocean that lets every wave come and go without losing itself. Lena didn't find peace overnight, but slowly she began to live differently. She stopped forcing life into her shape and started trusting life to shape her. And that's when the real miracles began. Opportunities she didn't plan appeared. People she didn't chase returned. Her body began to heal, not because she tried harder, but because she finally stopped trying to control what was never hers. Maybe that's what real strength looks like. Not in the hands that cling, but in the heart that trusts. Not in the voice that demands, but in the silence that accepts. Because when you surrender, you don't fall. You rise into something larger than yourself. You rise into peace. The Buddha taught, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. And maybe that's what life has been trying to show us all along. That surrender isn't the end of effort. It's the beginning of alignment. You don't lose your power when you let go. You just stop wasting it on what you can't change. And as you do, you start to feel something you may have forgotten. The calm beneath the chaos. The river beneath the storm. Real strength isn't in control. It's in surrender. Because when you finally release your grip, life stops resisting you too. 5. Letting go of control builds trust. There's a quiet moment in everyone's life when we realize we've been holding on too tightly. Holding on to plans, to outcomes, to people who were never ours to keep. We call it being responsible. We call it being in control. But underneath, it's often fear. Fear that life won't catch us if we fall. There was a man named Eli. He was a planner, through and through. Every day was mapped out. Every goal, every hour, every conversation, rehearsed in his mind. He believed control was safety, that if he managed every detail, nothing bad could surprise him. But life, it has its own rhythm. One year, the company he built from scratch collapsed. His savings vanished. His marriage followed. He sat in his car one night, hands gripping the wheel, whispering, "If I can't control this, then what do I have left?" That's the moment most of us reach at some point. When control crumbles and we're left face to face with something terrifying. Trust. Trust feels fragile when everything inside us wants proof. But Buddhism teaches us that control and trust cannot live in the same heart. The Buddha once said, "Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings, while the dawn is still dark." That's what real trust is. It's not waiting for certainty. It's singing before the sun rises. Eli didn't rebuild his company right away. He didn't rush to fix what was broken. Instead, he started small. He woke up and went for walks without his phone. He stopped planning his every move. He began to breathe deeply, listening to the sound of leaves brushing against the wind. For the first time, he noticed the world moved perfectly fine without his control. The sun still rose. The rain still fell. Life kept unfolding without needing his permission. And little by little, his fear began to soften. He realized something powerful. When we try to control everything, we're really telling the universe, "I don't trust you." But when we release that grip, we start a quiet partnership with life itself. It's not giving up. It's cooperation. You plant the seed. The universe handles the rain. You steer your boat, but you don't command the tide. That's how trust grows. In the space where control once lived. There's a story the Buddha shared about a man crossing a river. He built a raft to reach the other side. When he arrived safely, he thought, "This raft helped me so much. I should carry it with me forever." The Buddha smiled and said, "Foolish man, the raft was meant to be used, not held. Control is that raft. It helps us at times. But if we keep carrying it after we've crossed the river, it becomes a burden." Eli began to live by a new rhythm, not one of control, but of collaboration. When he planted a garden, he didn't rush the seeds to grow. When he met new people, he didn't demand promises of forever. When uncertainty came, he didn't fight it. He breathed through it. And with that surrender, trust blossomed. He didn't always get what he wanted, but he began to notice something better. He received what he needed. And that was enough. You see, life doesn't need your control to take care of you. It needs your participation. You don't have to know every answer. You just need to take the next honest step. And when you do, life meets you halfway. Because when you stop controlling everything, you finally give space for miracles to happen. The Buddha said, "Let go of what you think you must be, and you will become who you already are." That's the heart of trust. So ask yourself, what if today you stopped trying to manage every outcome? What if you whispered to the universe, "I trust you. Show me what's next." Maybe that's when peace begins. Not when everything is certain, but when you stop needing it to be. Because letting go of control isn't losing power. It's shifting power from your fear to your faith. And once you do, you'll realize something beautiful. Life has always been on your side. You just needed to loosen your grip long enough to feel it. Letting go of control isn't the end of effort. It's the beginning of trust. And trust is where freedom lives. When you begin to trust life, you start to notice something else. That the peace you've been searching for was never gone. It was simply waiting for you to stop fighting. 6. Growth begins where the grip ends. Have you ever held on so tightly to something that your hands began to ache? A relationship, a dream, a version of yourself you're too afraid to lose. Maya did. For years, she lived with her hands clenched, grasping at the illusion that if she just tried harder, if she just controlled every detail, nothing would fall apart. But life doesn't work that way, does it? The tighter she held on, the more things slipped through her fingers. The more she tried to force the flow of life, the more resistance she met. It was like trying to hold water in her palms. No matter how hard she tried, it always found a way to escape. And one day, when everything she feared came true, the job gone, the relationship ended, the identity she'd built crumbled. She found herself sitting on the floor, hands open for the first time in years. Empty, still, silent, and strangely peaceful. That was the moment she realized, sometimes what we call falling apart is simply the truth unfolding. You see, growth doesn't happen when life is comfortable. It begins when something inside you whispers, "Maybe I don't need to fight this anymore." We're all like Maya, in one way or another. We hold on to control, to certainty, to the image of who we think we should be. But life, like the ocean, teaches differently. You can't learn to float if you keep kicking the water. You can't be lifted if you keep resisting the waves. The Buddha once said, "You only lose what you cling to." It's not punishment, it's wisdom. When you stop clinging, you stop suffering. Because you finally see that life was never meant to be gripped, only experienced. Think of a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. If it never struggles, it never strengthens its wings. If someone were to help it out too soon, it wouldn't survive the wind. Your struggles, your letting go, they're not setbacks. They're the stretching of your own wings. But the ego resists. It whispers, if I let go, I'll lose everything. What it doesn't understand is this. When you loosen your grip, you don't lose your life. You gain it. You begin to trust that the river knows where it's going. You begin to trust that you don't need to swim against every current. And in that trust, something changes. Your fear softens. Your heart expands. You begin to see that maybe the universe has been carrying you all along. One evening, Maya sat by a lake. The sky was painted in quiet gold. She watched the ripples move across the surface, effortless, rhythmic. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, what if I stopped fighting? What if I let life carry me? And for the first time, she didn't feel small in the face of uncertainty. She felt connected. It wasn't that all her problems disappeared. It was that she no longer needed to control their outcome. She finally understood. Control had never brought her safety. It had only built walls between her and peace. The moment she released her grip, life flowed back in. She started noticing small miracles. A call from an old friend, a job that aligned with her passion, a morning sun that felt like it was shining for her. Nothing about the world had changed, only her way of meeting it. That's the quiet truth of growth. It doesn't come with noise or applause. It comes with surrender, with trust, with the soft courage to open your palms and whisper, I'm ready. Because growth isn't about becoming more. It's about becoming lighter, like the leaf that releases from the branch, not because it's forced, but because the wind calls it home. So if you're in a season of struggle right now, if you feel like everything is slipping away, pause. Maybe life isn't taking things from you. Maybe it's freeing your hands so they can receive something new. Let the world hold you, just for a while. And remember, your growth begins the moment your grip ends. As the Buddha taught, when you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. So breathe, trust, and let go. Because in that letting go, you rise. 7. Life flows when you stop interfering. Have you ever watched a river try to flow uphill? It can't. No matter how much force it gathers, no matter how strong the current becomes, it always returns to its natural path downward, toward ease, toward surrender. Yet, so many of us live as if we're trying to make the river flow our way. We push, we resist. We want life to follow our plans, our pace, our preferences. That was Daniel. For years, Daniel lived like a man rowing upstream. He woke every day with a schedule, a plan, and a silent fear that if he didn't control every part of his life, everything would fall apart. He managed his career, his family, even his emotions, like a commander directing an army. And yet, inside, he felt exhausted. Nothing ever felt enough. Every victory turned into another mountain to climb. Every silence made him anxious, because stillness felt like losing control. One evening, Daniel sat beside a small stream near his home. He noticed how effortlessly the water moved over rocks, around branches, through the smallest gaps. It didn't fight the stones in its way. It simply found another path. He realized, in that quiet moment, that he had been doing the opposite his whole life. He wasn't living, he was interfering. When we interfere with life, we think we're helping it flow better. But what we're really doing is stirring the water, clouding its clarity. Every time we say, "This shouldn't be happening," we make the water murky. Every time we rush, compare, or demand results, we lose sight of the gentle current already guiding us. The Buddha once taught, "When you let go of what you are, you become what you might be." It means that life's intelligence doesn't need our constant supervision. The sun rises without us setting an alarm. The heart beats without our permission. The tree grows without knowing how. So why do we think our lives must be forced into shape? Daniel began to experiment with stillness. It wasn't easy at first. When a problem appeared, his old habit was to fix it fast. But this time, he paused. He noticed the urge to control, and instead of acting on it, he breathed. Some days, that breath felt like rebellion. Doing nothing felt unnatural, even wrong. But slowly, something changed. His relationship softened. Work stopped feeling like war. Even the challenges that once terrified him started to unfold naturally, almost as if they had their own rhythm. He realized, life doesn't need to be managed. It only needs to be met with presence, with trust. Think of a muddy pond. If you keep stirring it, the water stays cloudy. But if you stop, if you simply let it be, the dirt sinks and clarity returns on its own. The same happens within us. When we stop forcing, stop judging, stop interfering, our own wisdom begins to rise from the stillness. The answers we were chasing reveal themselves, not because we found them, but because we finally got quiet enough to listen. This is what the Buddha called right effort. Not effort born of control, but of harmony. Not struggle, but alignment. One afternoon, Daniel returned to the same stream. He sat quietly, watching the sunlight dance on the surface. He noticed how the water didn't need to know where it was going, and yet it always arrived. He smiled, because for the first time, he understood what peace truly means. Peace isn't the absence of movement. It's the absence of interference. It's when the mind stops shouting long enough for the soul to speak. And that voice, that deep inner knowing, whispers something profoundly simple. You are safe. You can trust this flow. Maybe that's what life has been trying to teach you too. When you stop forcing outcomes, you begin to notice the quiet perfection of each moment. When you stop trying to control people, love becomes lighter, freer. When you stop demanding certainty, life becomes a gentle discovery again. You begin to see that even the detours were never really detours, just hidden paths back to yourself. So, if you find yourself struggling, if your heart feels heavy from trying to make everything work, step back. Let the river flow. Let the world turn without your pushing. Let life breathe on its own. Be still, and let your stillness become clarity. Because the truth is, the moment you stop interfering, life begins to flow again. Not the way you imagined, but in the way it was always meant to. And in that quiet, effortless flow, you'll find what you were searching for all along: peace. As the Buddha said, just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life. So stay still long enough for that flame within you to glow again. Trust the river. Let go of the need to steer. And watch how beautifully life carries you. When you finally stop standing in its way, 8. Choose what matters, not what's easy. Imagine a garden bathed in morning light. Each seed in the soil has the potential to bloom into something extraordinary. Yet, many seeds remain trapped inside their shells, waiting, hesitant, never daring to break free. That's the way life often feels for so many of us. Meet Clara. Clara worked in a comfortable office, a job that promised security. Every morning, she sat at her desk, sipping coffee, checking boxes, moving papers, doing everything right. On the outside, it looked like peace, stable, predictable, safe. But inside, her heart was restless. She felt a whisper of longing to create, to explore, to live a life aligned with her purpose. Yet fear kept her rooted. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear that stepping out would mean losing what she already had. So she stayed. Year after year, the garden remained unplanted, the seed untouched. Safety and ease often disguise themselves as peace. We convince ourselves that staying in the familiar is wise. But Buddhism teaches otherwise. An easy life is not necessarily a peaceful one. True ease comes from living rightly, not comfortably. The truth is, comfort rarely nurtures growth. Growth begins when the seed cracks its shell, when we dare to step into uncertainty, when we choose what matters over what is easy. Clara's turning point came unexpectedly. One rainy evening, she stumbled upon a street artist painting murals on the side of a gray building. The colors were bold, vivid, alive, each stroke fearless. She watched for hours, mesmerized. And then it hit her. The artist wasn't concerned with comfort or approval. He was devoted to what mattered: expression, authenticity, creation. Her heart stirred. A quiet, but insistent voice inside whispered, "If not now, when? If not this, what?" The next morning, Clara faced a choice. She could continue the safe routine, or she could step into the unknown, the path her heart had been urging her toward for years. It wasn't easy. Her palms sweated at the thought of quitting, of starting anew. Doubts loomed like storm clouds. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? Yet she remembered the lesson of the seed. A seed remains just potential until it breaks free from its shell. A life remains just existence until it chooses meaning over ease. With trembling hands and a racing heart, Clara signed up for an evening art class. She didn't know where it would lead, but she knew that staying put no longer served her spirit. Buddhist wisdom tells us that true enlack, real inner peace, is not found in avoidance. It's found in living rightly, in aligning our actions with our deepest values, even when it's difficult. Each choice matters more than comfort. Each step toward what truly matters is a step toward awakening. Even the discomfort, the struggle, the uncertainty, these are the rain and sunlight nurturing our growth. Clara discovered that courage isn't a sudden flash. It's a quiet daily commitment. It's saying yes to what feels alive inside, even when the world whispers no. It's choosing the garden of potential over the desert of safety. Weeks turned into months. Clara painted. She explored. She stumbled, made mistakes, and fell. But each fall was a lesson. Each stroke of the brush, a liberation. Her life began to overflow with color, with vibrancy, with the sense of purpose she had always craved. She realized the easy path had never been peaceful. It had been an illusion, a cage disguised as comfort. The true freedom lay in choosing what mattered, even when it was hard, even when it scared her. Her relationships improved, too. People responded to her authenticity. Opportunities emerged, not because she forced them, but because she finally became the person who could meet them. Think about your own life. Where are you choosing ease over meaning? Which seeds in your garden remain unplanted because fear keeps them locked in their shells? Breathe. Feel the hesitation, the fear, the longing. Notice it without judgment. Then, like Clara, let yourself take one small step. Sign up for the class, have the conversation, write the first word, start the project. Whatever matters to your heart, not what seems easy or safe. The first step cracks the shell. The first choice breaks the habit of avoidance. The first act of courage whispers to the world, I am ready to grow. Buddha taught, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. Choosing what matters is a present moment act. It is not reckless, but mindful. It is not simple, but sacred. So today, reflect on your seeds. Notice which are waiting. Notice which fear has kept dormant. Then, step forward. Break the shell. Water your garden with courage, patience, and intention. Because an easy life will not bloom. A safe life will not bloom. But a life that chooses what truly matters. That life will flourish. And in that flourishing, you will discover a joy and peace deeper than any comfort could ever offer. The seed cracks, the flower blooms, the river flows, not because the world changes, but because you dared to choose what matters. 9. The art of flowing. Picture a river at dawn. Mist rises from its surface. The water moves effortlessly, weaving around stones, bending with the current, embracing every obstacle in its path. It doesn't fight. It doesn't resist. And yet, somehow, it reaches its destination. This is the art of flowing. Meet Daniel. Daniel was a project manager in a bustling city. Every day, he raced against deadlines, juggling tasks, meetings, and expectations. His mind was a storm of musts and shoulds, and yet, the more he tried to control, the more exhausted he became. Every morning, he woke with tension in his shoulders, heart racing, wondering if today would finally slip out of his hands. He believed happiness came from mastering everything, controlling outcomes, perfecting plans, avoiding mistakes. And yet, the harder he tried, the more elusive it felt. One weekend, on a whim, Daniel took a walk along a quiet river near the outskirts of the city. He watched the water swirl around a fallen branch. At first, he thought, the branch is in the way. It's disturbing the flow. Then he noticed something remarkable. The water didn't stop. It curved around the branch gracefully, sparkling as it moved forward. It was a subtle but powerful lesson. Happiness, Daniel realized, isn't about controlling the river of life. It's about learning to move with it. It's about releasing resistance, softening the grip on our plans, and trusting the natural flow of things. Buddhist teachings echo this truth. Happiness does not come from obtaining what you desire, but from harmonizing with what arrives. Daniel began experimenting. At first, it was small gestures, allowing a meeting to take its natural course instead of micromanaging every detail. Pausing when traffic delayed him, noticing the sunlight on the leaves, instead of fuming at being late. He discovered that when he stopped fighting against what was, his mind cleared. Moments of anxiety melted like morning mist. Then came bigger tests. A major project hit a snag. The team was behind schedule. Daniel felt the familiar urge to control, to micromanage, to bend every event to his plan. He took a deep breath and remembered the river. Instead of resisting, he asked, what can this situation teach me? How can I move with it instead of against it? The answer didn't come all at once, but slowly, solutions appeared. Problems were solved collaboratively, creatively. Stress lessened, tension dissolved. The team adapted. Daniel realized that resistance often multiplies obstacles, while acceptance opens doors. The art of flowing is not passive. It's an active engagement with life. It's dancing with uncertainty, embracing change, learning to bend without breaking. Each challenge becomes a teacher, each unexpected turn, a guide. When we stop trying to control every moment, we start noticing the hidden currents that lead us forward. Imagine a leaf floating on that river. It doesn't choose the direction. It doesn't fight the rapids. And yet, it moves, it survives, it thrives. Life flows in the same way if we allow it. Daniel also discovered that flowing doesn't mean surrendering responsibility. It means aligning effort with wisdom. He could still plan, still act, still strive, but he stopped gripping outcomes so tightly. He noticed the difference. Stress became clarity. Frustration became curiosity. Tension became resilience. He even found joy in small moments, the laughter of a colleague, the smell of rain, the rhythm of his own breath. These moments had always existed, but he had been too busy resisting life to notice. Buddha taught, "Do not cling to what you cannot control. Move with the impermanence of all things, and your heart will be at peace." Weeks passed. Daniel's life did not become perfect. Projects still faced delays. Challenges still arose. But his heart no longer sank in anticipation of obstacles. He had discovered a freedom that comes not from controlling life, but from moving with it. Flowing doesn't mean everything is smooth. It means meeting turbulence with mindfulness. It means finding stillness in motion, grace in struggle, wisdom in change. Now, think about your own life. Where are you resisting? Where are you gripping so tightly that the very effort disturbs your peace? Pause. Take a deep breath. Imagine yourself as the river, moving around rocks, embracing the currents, trusting the journey. Flow with life's rhythm. Learn the art of softening without surrendering your strength. Dare to dance with uncertainty. Because happiness, like water, doesn't come from control. It comes from flowing, from allowing, receiving, moving with what is, from the gentle, steadfast courage to embrace life as it comes. The river moves. The leaf drifts. The heart softens. And in that dance, the art of flowing becomes the art of living. 10. Freedom through awareness. Imagine waking up to a quiet morning. The sun is just beginning to filter through your window, painting golden lines across the floor. Your mind is already stirring, as usual, running through the list of tasks, worries, and must-dos. But today, something is different. You pause. You notice the thoughts, but you do not grab them. You notice the tension, but you do not clutch it. And for a moment, there is a space, a small, quiet space between you and the storm inside. This space is the beginning of freedom. Meet Sarah. Sarah had always defined herself by her thoughts. If she felt anxious, she was anxious. If she felt sadness, she was sadness. Her identity had become a shadow of her mind, and the shadow often felt heavier than reality. She carried regrets, like stones in her pockets, fears like chains around her wrists. Every decision, every encounter, every emotion seemed to pull her further into a maze she could not escape. One day, she stumbled upon a quiet corner in a local park, a small bench beneath a blossoming tree. She sat, closed her eyes, and simply noticed. At first, it was uncomfortable. Her mind rebelled. Thoughts clattered like loose tiles on a roof. Her emotions surged: frustration, worry, impatience. But then she remembered a teaching she had read. You are not your thoughts, not your feelings, not your fears. So she watched. She observed the storm without judgment. She named it silently. There is fear. There is doubt. There is frustration. And then, slowly, she realized something remarkable. None of it needed her permission to exist, and none of it defined her. This simple act, seeing without clinging, created freedom. Sarah started practicing awareness intentionally. In meetings, she noticed impatience rising, but didn't follow it into tension. On her commute, she felt irritation with traffic, but didn't let it dictate her mood. At home, When emotions surged with family interactions, she paused, breathing, noticing the feeling instead of being consumed by it. And here's the beautiful discovery. The more she watched, the lighter she became. The less she identified with fleeting thoughts, the more spacious life felt. Every moment of noticing without reacting was like lifting a stone from her chest. Awareness is not about suppressing your mind or emotions. It is not trying to fix anything. It is simply recognizing the present truth. You are not your mental chatter. You are the space in which thoughts, emotions, and sensations arise and fade. Think of a sky on a windy day. Clouds drift, sometimes stormy, sometimes bright. The sky itself is untouched. It doesn't fight the clouds, doesn't chase them away. It simply allows them to move. Awareness works the same way. Sarah learned that freedom is not found in changing what arises, but in seeing it clearly. She began applying this in deeper ways. At work, instead of panicking over an unexpected project shift, she noticed the tension and then acted with clarity. In relationships, rather than reacting to criticism or conflict, she observed her emotional response and chose a more compassionate approach. Even in moments of grief, she noticed sadness, welcomed it, and allowed it to move through her without becoming trapped. Through awareness, Sarah discovered that she could meet life fully, without fear, without grasping, without resistance. Buddha taught, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become. But only when you notice what you are thinking do you become free." Awareness illuminates what is hidden. It dissolves the grip of the past and the pull of the future. It allows you to step out of the cycle of automatic reactions and into conscious choice. Imagine your life as a room. Thoughts and emotions are guests arriving at your door. In the past, you chased some out, clung to others, created chaos by wrestling with them. With awareness, you open the door, greet them, and let them pass. You remain unmoved, yet fully present. This is not a quick fix. It is a gentle practice. It grows with patience. Every time you pause, notice, and breathe, you are cultivating freedom. Every time you resist the urge to merge with a thought or an emotion, you reclaim your space. Every moment of conscious observation strengthens the light that dissolves the darkness of identification. Sarah's life didn't become perfect. She still felt fear, frustration, and doubt, but she no longer mistook these feelings for who she was. She had discovered the profound liberation of simply seeing. The power of awareness transformed ordinary moments into clarity. Every thought became a visitor, every emotion a messenger, not a jailer. Now you can practice this too. Notice your thoughts without judgment. Observe emotions as they arise. Recognize fears as temporary guests. Feel the breath anchoring you in the present moment. Do not fight. Do not cling. Just see. And in that simple act, watching without merging, you step into freedom. The freedom that has always been waiting just behind the stories you tell yourself. The freedom that arises the moment you realize you are not your mind. You are the awareness that watches it. Sit, breathe, watch, and feel the liberation that comes when you simply know you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the light that sees them, and in that light, you are free. 11. Life meets you when you stop running. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a meadow at dawn. The mist rises slowly from the grass, and the air feels fresh, untouched. A gentle breeze brushes your face, carrying the scent of earth and morning. Now picture yourself running through this meadow. Your legs are moving fast, but the ground beneath your feet feels uncertain. Your heart races, your thoughts spin, and the harder you run, the more exhausted you become. This is life when we chase. We chase success, happiness, validation, even peace itself. We run from discomfort, from fear, from silence. And in that endless sprint, we rarely notice that everything we seek has been waiting quietly, just beyond our grasp. Not because it's far, but because we're too busy fleeing. Meet Daniel. Daniel had spent most of his adult life in motion. From one job to another, one relationship to the next, one self-improvement goal to another. He believed that stopping meant falling behind. Stopping meant failure. Stopping meant losing. But inside, a quiet voice whispered, "Is this really life, or just a treadmill you've built for yourself?" One evening, Daniel found himself sitting on the steps of his apartment building. The city hummed around him, lights flickering, cars rushing, people moving like tides. He felt a profound weariness, a heaviness in his chest that no accomplishment could lift. And then he paused. Not intentionally, at first. Not as a plan or a meditation exercise. Just a pause. And in that pause, he noticed something extraordinary. The anxiety, the striving, the endless pressure, it began to soften. The weight of trying to make everything happen started to lift. For the first time in years, Daniel realized he could simply be, and in simply being, life began to meet him where he was. There's a lesson here that Buddhism teaches. Happiness is not something to chase. It arises when the mind stops chasing. Daniel began experimenting with this principle. He stopped rushing to check his phone the moment he woke up. He let emails wait. He let small annoyances pass without reaction. He slowed his steps on his commute. He stopped demanding constant progress from himself. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, a shift occurred. Opportunities arrived without force. Connections deepened naturally. Moments of joy appeared unbidden, as if life itself was leaning in to greet him. When we chase, life flees. When we pause, even just a breath or two, life finds a way to flow toward us. Think of a river. If you try to scoop water into your hands, it slips through your fingers. The more you grasp, the more elusive it becomes. But if you let your hands float, the river flows around them. You feel its energy, its movement, its life. You participate without effort. You receive without force. Life works the same way. Stopping doesn't mean giving up. Stopping doesn't mean laziness or defeat. It means surrendering the illusion that you can control every outcome. It means trusting that the universe, like the river, carries what you need. Daniel learned to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, to breathe when panic rose. And in those moments of stillness, clarity emerged. He noticed his relationships improving, not because he tried harder, but because he was fully present when he was with others. He noticed his creativity returning, not because he forced inspiration, but because he allowed thoughts to settle and ideas to rise naturally. He noticed peace entering his life, not because he chased it, but because he stopped running from what already was. Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." By ceasing to chase, Daniel discovered that he had never truly lost anything. The constant striving had obscured life's natural flow. The pause revealed that happiness, love, and meaning had been surrounding him all along. Here's the secret. The moment you stop running, the universe meets you. The moment you stop demanding, expecting, and forcing, life shows up in its own timing. The moment you stop resisting discomfort, the heart finds ease. The moment you stop seeking elsewhere, what you need begins to arrive right here. Try it yourself. Pause. Breathe. Sit quietly for a moment. Notice the world moving around you, but don't try to control it. Notice your thoughts, but don't chase them. Notice your feelings, But don't resist them. And then watch. Watch as life finds you. Watch as peace steps in quietly, like a soft breeze through your hair. Watch as joy appears in ordinary moments you once overlooked. When you stop running, you will discover life was never trying to evade you. It was waiting for you to stop, so it could finally meet you. Stop. Breathe. Notice. Life is already here. It has always been waiting, patiently, quietly, and in the stillness, you will meet it fully, freely, completely. Conclusion. Life's lesson and reflection. As we come to the end of this journey together, let's pause for a moment. Take a slow breath and feel it settle deep inside you. This video has been about a simple yet profound truth. Life does not need to be chased, it needs to be trusted. All of our fear, all of our anxiety, all of our attempts to control, they are like clouds that obscure the sun within us. When we stop grasping, when we let go of the urge to command every moment, we open the door for life to flow with its own grace, guided by wisdom and gentle awareness. Think of it this way. Holding on tightly doesn't protect you. It limits you. Surrender is not defeat, it is trust at the deepest level. Peace doesn't come from controlling the world around you. It comes from acceptance, from simply noticing what is, without judgment. When we stop running, when we stop forcing, life begins to meet us softly, naturally, with compassion. Here's what I hope stays with you. Letting go is not losing. It's opening to a deeper trust. Peace does not arrive from managing everything. It arrives from awareness and presence. When you stop chasing, life finds you gently, quietly, beautifully. Imagine it, a river flowing. You stop stirring the waters. You stop struggling against the current. And suddenly, the river carries you. You discover you've been supported all along. You just had to pause and notice. And now, reflect for a moment. Who in your life might need to hear this today? Who could benefit from the reminder that letting go opens space for life to come to them? If this message touched you, I invite you to share it gently with someone who might need it. Let them feel this calm, this clarity, this light. And as always, thank you, sincerely, for staying until the very end. May this message bring a quiet peace to your day, and may it ripple softly into the lives of those around you. If this video brought even a little calm or insight, consider following Buddha Wisdom for more teachings, or simply share this with someone you care about. Even though this video has ended, the feeling, the lesson, the pause, it's not over. Carry it with you. Notice it tomorrow, next week, in the small moments. And see how life, patiently and lovingly, finds its way to meet you.